Level 1. The bottle. You're 14 years old, and the neighborhood where you were born and raised has already made most of the decisions for you. But you don't realize this yet, and you won't for years to come. And even when you do realize it, that realization won't change a thing, because the decisions will already have been made and will be set in stone. MS-13 controls every street within walking distance of your home. You know this just as well as you know the layout of your own bedroom, not because you were told, but because you've spent enough time in that room. This knowledge has now become part of the room's atmosphere, a self-evident, ordinary fact about the world. The elderly men are dressed in a combination of blue and white. Within the neighborhood, they move with an authority akin to a magnetic pull, dividing those walking on the street as if a ship were parting the water. Not with a hostile or aggressive demeanor, nor with any visible threat, but with the complete and unshakable confidence of people who see the space as their own, as if they were its rightful owners. They have a fortune that's plain to see, but what stands out even more is their reputation. Your mom works 2 jobs, and you eat at school because there's food there, whereas at home there's sometimes not enough. At school, in that peculiar way where poor children in underfunded schools become invisible, you too become invisible. You aren't bullied. No one befriends you. You're simply overlooked by a system so overwhelmed it can't even notice you. But when those men walk down the street, everyone notices them. Everyone treats them with respect. You start spending time with them in the corners where they hang out. It's a decision you make without even realizing it, just as you're drawn toward the warmth without consciously deciding to warm up. You don't ask for permission to join in. Asking for permission would be disrespectful, and you don't need to be told that. You already know it, just as you know the hundreds of other unwritten rules of this world. When you need cigarettes, you run to the store to buy some. While they're talking business, you stand behind them and keep an eye on the street. You hold the packs without asking what's inside, because asking what's inside isn't something you'd do. They give you the nickname Palomilla and start calling you that. This word means moth, because you're still flitting around the light without being part of it. Then they start calling you battle. This word means lookout, and it's the first word they give you, one that carries meaning and places you into a functional category within their world. Your job is to wait around the corner and keep watch, for hours, with your phone in hand. If you see a police officer, whether it's an official vehicle, a civilian vehicle, a police officer on foot, or anything else you think might be law enforcement, you'll send a single emoji, a police car emoji. That's it. If you see Barrio 18, go inside and warn them right away. You're not making any money. The point of this stage isn't to make money, and you know that, because you're giving it your full attention, with complete concentration and without letting your mind wander. They ask if you can keep your mouth shut. This question is the most fundamental question in the world, the question underlying all others. A teacher asks you about the men on the corner. You say you don't know anything. A detective stops you in front of the school and offers you $20 in exchange for a name. You walk away without taking the $20 or answering. That money is more than what you had before you started talking, and it's an amount you need. But you still walk away because you realize that those $20 are a test, and the price of failing that test is far heavier than $20. Standing there on that corner, in the heat and the rain, you're eagerly waiting for the day they'll say something to you other than battle. That is, other than lookout. The day they'll say something that shows you belong. Level 2, the Cholo. When you're 6 months, 14, or 15 years old, those 6 months pass in their own unique way. Each day feels both endless and over in an instant, slow enough that every change around the corner feels permanent, yet fast enough that half a year will fly by in the blink of an eye as you watch the world go by from the corner. You've proven what you needed to prove. Even in situations where speaking up would have been easier, more financially sensible, and could have resolved the issue, you kept your mouth shut. One night, Sneaky pulls you aside. He's 5 years older than you. In this context, that's practically a generation gap. "Do you want to join us?" he asks. It's hardly a question. You're nodding your head, because ever since that first day when you stood on the corner, sent your first emoji, and turned down the $20 the detective offered you, you've been acting with this moment in mind. Then it's Cholo's turn. The test. The initiation ceremony. One night you're suddenly summoned. You stand in an alley and 13 members form a circle around you. The rule is very simple and absolute. You must withstand their combined attack for 13 seconds. You can't fight back. You can't run away. When the pain becomes absolutely unbearable, you can't let out that scream coming from deep within your body. The only thing you can do is hold on for 13 seconds. The count begins. 1. A fist hits your jaw and the world tilts to the side. 2. A kick lands on your ribs and you hear a cracking sound. You make a mental note of it to think about later, because dwelling on it right now won't do any good. 5. You're lying on the ground is cold, there are footprints all around you, and the counting continues. 8. You taste far more of your own blood than the blood from your split lips. Number 11. The view is doing something it shouldn't, both narrowing and brightening at the edges at the same time. Number 13, at the end, it stops. You're lying on the concrete, and every part of your body is sending out pain signals at the same time. Every single one of them is urgent. Sneaky bends down to pick you up and then hugs you tightly. That's the strangest part. Someone who just watched you get beaten up hugging you, as if the beating you took were a gift from them. Welcome, my friend, he says. You're in now. They give you a name. It's not your name. It's a name they give you. The name you'll carry for the rest of your life in this world. Flaco, or Smiley, or Diablo, or something else. Something that fits what they see when they look at you. Something that will appear in police reports, court documents, and perhaps, in the end, on a headstone. This name is now your identity. Your real name, however, was never truly your identity, because your real name was something your family gave you, whereas this name is something the gang gave you. And the gang's influence over you is now far stronger than your mother's. Though at 15, you couldn't have voiced this thought, and perhaps you never will. You still can't make any money, but now you have a protector. You have a family, that's what they call it. This word takes on a weightier meaning than ever before, because you spent 15 years in a world where people used this word casually, whereas in this world it is used with the utmost seriousness. You came in covered in blood. You'll leave covered in blood. You know what that means. You knew what it meant even before they said it. Level 3, the soldier. You're 16 and have been part of the gang for a year. That year has taught you many things that a 16-year-old shouldn't have to learn. Now it's time for your first real mission. You are a soldier. This means that your role in managing the organization's finances has moved beyond a secondary function and has become a core part of your duties. MS-13 controls the local drug trade in your neighborhood, just as tightly as a public utility company controls the distribution of electricity. Anyone operating in this area either pays the gang or can't operate at all. You don't touch the product directly. This is both a safeguard and a security vulnerability. After all, most security measures, if understood well enough, can also be a security vulnerability. Someone leaves a package in a specific spot, behind a trash bin, under a certain step, or in the gap of a fence, and you go and pick it up. You walk 3 blocks. You knock on a door twice. Someone opens the door. You hand the package to them. Then you leave. This case file contains almost no information about you. There are no conversations, names, or phone calls that could be subpoenaed. There are no security camera recordings showing you doing anything other than knocking on the door and entering. You are part of the human infrastructure of a business that has optimized itself to evade law enforcement scrutiny for decades, and you are just a tiny part of that infrastructure that carries out its functions. $200 a week. That's more money than my mom makes in 3 days. And the impact of that comparison is something that's hard to put into words. It's not exactly pride, nor is it exactly shame. It's not simply the pleasure of having money, though it is partly that. It has to do with the gulf between what the world offers to those who do everything right and what it offers to those who don't. And this gulf is so vast that it becomes an argument in and of itself, a financial justification for the life you're currently living. You're buying yourself some new shoes. You're buying a chain. In this world where you spent your entire childhood trying to make yourself invisible, you're buying things that make you visible, and that visibility feels like oxygen to you. However, this risk is always present, it is real, and it looms in the background of every transaction you make. If the police catch you with that package, you'll be sent to juvenile detention, and MS-13 won't pay your bail, won't send you a lawyer, and won't even acknowledge your existence while you're sitting in a cell. They'll completely ignore you. Serve your sentence. Keep your mouth shut. These are the rules, and you agreed to them. This agreement was permanent. If you snitch, you die. This isn't a threat, it's a statement of operational fact. They'll find you in juvenile detention. They'll find you in adult prison. No matter where you move, they'll find you. You can't escape MS-13's territory. Besides, you're doing your best even in the toughest parts of the job. That's the other half of a soldier's duty. A shop owner in the area is refusing to pay protection money. This means he's decided to test whether the consequences of refusing are real or just empty threats. You and 3 others enter the room armed with batons. The outcome of his test is clear and immediate. There's no need to say it twice. A member of the rival gang is spotted in an area where he shouldn't be. You're given a weapon and a target, and you spring into action right away. Level 4, the Veterano. You're 19 years old and have been part of this organization for 5 years. Those 5 years have cost you things you can count and things you can't. A full 18 months spent in the county jail on assault charges, a cell, detectives visiting you at regular intervals, and questions you answered in silence. That unique loneliness that comes with being imprisoned at 19, and the sadness of knowing that no one was coming to get you out of there. When you got out of prison, the gang threw you a click party. That's the name given to the celebration held for members who served their sentences in silence within the organization. This party serves as a kind of reward. It's a recognition that you stayed true to the rules, even though doing so cost you 1.5 years of your life. You're a veteran now. That means you're senior, and it means the organizational structure has been reshaped around you. You're no longer doing menial tasks. There are soldiers under your command who are younger than you, young people who resemble you at 16, young people endowed with the same ambition and the same unseen qualities, to whom this world responds in the only way it knows how. They're transferring money to you. You take your share and give the rest to Polero. Your role is regional management. This is, in the truest sense of the word, a management role, involving resource allocation, personnel decisions, quality control, and disciplinary actions. You have complete control over all 3 blocks. You decide where vendors will set up shop. You determine the tax structure for anyone wishing to operate in your area. When a young member starts breaking the rules, if they talk too much at a party, start stealing their share, or exhibit behavior that draws attention, you become the corrective mechanism. Sometimes the correction takes the form of a conversation. Sometimes it's a beating. Sometimes the person who needs correcting is no longer around, and it's accepted that the correction has been carried out. You make $1,500 a week. That's enough to afford a used car, an apartment, a girlfriend, and the trappings of an ordinary life. All you have is that facade. In fact, you're already on their radar. The police recognize your face with that special familiarity that comes from an agency that's been keeping tabs on you for a long time. You're in a database labeled Verified Gang Member. This means that whenever anything happens in your area, any incident, crime, or disturbance requiring an investigation, you'll be the first person they come knocking on the door. This label will haunt you for the rest of your life in every encounter you have with law enforcement. You can't escape it. MS-13 maintains a presence in Los Angeles, Houston, Long Island, Virginia, El Salvador, and a dozen other places you've never even been. And the records regarding the organization's members are official and permanent. There are 2 options, the coffin or the informant. Informants don't live long enough to enjoy the benefits the government offers them in exchange for their cooperation. Level 5, the Polero. You're 24 years old, and in a world where the statistical outcomes for those who made the same choices as you did at 14 aren't exactly promising, simply being alive and not in prison right now is an achievement in itself. You were shot twice, once in the shoulder and once in the thigh, and both times you didn't involve the police. You recovered because going to the police would have required a conversation that would have escalated to a level you couldn't risk. You've been arrested 6 times, you've been imprisoned twice. You've never broken. This is a term the organization uses when someone collaborates, and not breaking is the only value in this world that cannot be divided into anything else. The gang is showing you what this level of trust means. They're promoting you to Polero, that is, the person in charge, the leader of the local gang. You'll have 30 to 40 soldiers under your command. Your territory covers an entire neighborhood. You are now fully functioning as a manager, collecting money from your experienced employees, taking your share and transferring the remainder to upper management, that is, regional management. You're holding meetings. The veterans are coming to you with operational issues. Barrio 18 attacked one of the dealers. The police raided the stash. A supplier shorted the last shipment. You make the decisions. You give the orders. Find them. Take them down. Take care of it. You also serve as both a diplomat and a judge. When another organization wants to negotiate terms, they turn to you. And the discussion takes place in a specific, indirect style of language that both parties understand, yet one that makes it difficult to initiate legal proceedings even if it is recorded. When a disagreement between 2 soldiers escalates to a point where they can't resolve it themselves, you're the one who settles it, and your decision is final. If you say that one of them has jumped out, the opposite of jumped in, theoretically possible, but in practice an unbearable outcome, that's exactly what happens. If you say someone is green lit, meaning marked for death, that happens too. You earn between $5,000 and $10,000 a week. That's enough to finance a lifestyle that looks successful from the outside. But you haven't been able to sleep soundly and uninterrupted for 2 years. There's a gun under where you're sleeping tonight, and the place where you're sleeping tonight isn't the same as where you slept last night, because moving around is a survival strategy, and you've managed to stay alive long enough to realize that these strategies, which may seem paranoid, are actually the ones keeping you alive. You don't fully trust anyone, not even the people you've known for 10 years or the woman you live with, because the federal government has a particular tendency to turn girlfriends and spouses into cooperating witnesses, and this tendency is based on a solid track record of successful prosecutions. Level 6, the Renflero. You're 30 years old. In this world you've lived in since you were 14, that's not just an age group, it's an achievement. Most of the people you know are either dead or serving sentences that will keep them in prison until the end of their lives. Prison has a way of aging people. You, however, are neither dead nor serving such a sentence. This means you're someone the gang values, an experienced, intelligent person who has lived long enough to accumulate the special knowledge that comes with survival. You are now a Renflero, a regional leader, which means you are in charge of MS-13's operations throughout an entire city, and in some cases across multiple cities. 5 or 6 Paleros work under your command. Hundreds of soldiers are under this rank. You are no longer on the streets. The streets are places where people stand out, and this is no longer something that can be kept under control through your operational security measures. You manage your organization like a CEO, supply chain management, pricing strategy, oversight of the distribution network, and personnel decisions within a structure so large that you cannot personally know everyone. You negotiate directly, one-on-one, with cartel representatives regarding cocaine and heroin shipments. These meetings take place in carefully selected locations where they cannot be eavesdropped on, monitored, or tracked, and utilize a specially developed language designed to discuss matters that cannot be mentioned by name. You set the prices. You manage the distribution. You also manage the funds. This is the most complex operational challenge under your responsibility, because making millions of dollars available in a legal manner requires a very robust infrastructure. You open legitimate businesses, a car wash, a construction company, a nightclub, and many others, and the money is laundered through these operations, eventually appearing as income from legitimate business activities. In the eyes of your neighbors, you're a successful businessman. This is a label they use without any hint of mockery, and it's not entirely inaccurate. The FBI is listening in on your phone calls. You know this for a fact, you've seen too many people get caught, and you're confident enough to recognize the signs. This means you'll never discuss anything important over the phone. You meet in person. You use a coded language that has been carefully developed over the years to evade law enforcement. Another complication that arises at your level within the gang is of a political nature. MS-13 is not a monolithic organization in the sense that it has a single hierarchy and a single chain of command. This gang is a community of gangs that share a common identity held together by a mythology, a set of rules, and the authority of the people who founded it. These gangs sometimes cooperate and sometimes clash. The members of this powerful gang are being held in maximum security prisons in El Salvador and the United States, and their orders are relayed through lawyers, coded letters, and intermediaries who carry no written instructions. When they order something to be done, it is done. When they order someone to die, that person dies without question. You are strong in ways that most people will never experience, but you are by no means free in the true sense of the word. Level 7. The Shot Caller. The RICO case that the federal government has been meticulously preparing for 4 years has finally resulted in an indictment. Your name is written in capital letters at the very top of the indictment, and the charges carry a potential sentence of a full 30 years in prison, with no possibility of parole. This lengthy sentence means you'll remain in a federal prison until your last breath, unless you do something you've never done before and would absolutely rather die than do. You can't do anything. You walk in. And here's what people who've never set foot inside a maximum security federal prison don't understand about MS-13. This organization continues its operations and maintains its structure even beyond the prison walls. This organizational structure extends beyond the prison walls, and on the other side of the wall, it is in some respects more intense and powerful than in the street environment. For while the street environment is dispersed, the prison is a closed space, and concentration in a closed space are conditions in which authority can operate with extraordinary efficiency. Within a week of your transfer, you made contact with the other MS-13 members inside. There are dozens of them, and they manage various aspects of the prison economy and social structure using the same territorial logic they employ in the neighborhoods. You become a decision maker, a leadership position with real authority within the prison's internal power structure. You decide who will be under protection and who will be subjected to the opposite treatment. You resolve disputes according to the rules. You enforce whatever the rules are. You also maintain your connection with the outside world, because the outside world is still actively functioning and still needs to be managed. Your wife comes on visiting days, and these visits convey information in both directions. News to the inside, orders to the outside, in a language that the guards monitoring the visits have not yet deciphered. Drugs are smuggled in by guards who have been bought off through financial pressure and relationship-building strategies that the organization has carefully and meticulously developed over decades. Cell phones, meanwhile, are smuggled in using methods that institutional security cannot consistently prevent. Money circulates in patterns that, when viewed individually, do not attract attention but collectively form an economy. You are imposing taxes on this economy. When the outside world needs it, you issue an assassination order from the outside, a witness scheduled to testify, a former member who has decided that cooperation is the only way to survive, a rival whose continued existence poses an operational problem. The decision is made. 3 days later, the problem is resolved. You're in a cage made of concrete and steel, and you have far more operational authority than most people roaming freely in the world could ever possess. Level 8. International Leader. Above you, always above you, in an organizational tier, you interact with but never fully enter, there are the founders. Legend. In the 1980s in Los Angeles, the men who founded MS-13, drawing inspiration from the desperation of Salvadoran refugees, the latest wave of immigrants fleeing civil war, who were met with the particular hostility American cities reserved for those who didn't yet belong here. They formed this gang to protect themselves from other active gangs. It is an origin story so steeped in irony that it requires a moment's reflection to fully grasp. In the 1990s, the U.S. government deported thousands of MS-13 members to El Salvador. This was a policy designed to solve a problem, but it ultimately exported the problem to a country lacking the infrastructure to control it, and MS-13 took such firm root in El Salvador that it evolved from a street gang in Los Angeles into a transnational criminal organization with operational presence in many countries, and a command structure that crosses borders as if they did not apply to it. Borders that, from the organization's perspective, are largely irrelevant. While top-level leaders sit in Salvador prisons, built to imprison them and confine their bodies, their authority moves freely through every channel the organization has established over more than 4 decades. They are, in every sense, ghosts with virtually no public presence, no social media, no interviews, no circulating photographs, and no names mentioned in mainstream journalism. They communicate through so many meticulously constructed layers of intermediaries that tracing an order from its execution back to its source has become a project that has left law enforcement helpless for decades. Their authority is absolute in the sense that, when applied consistently over a long enough period, it becomes something that cannot even be questioned by the people living under it. An order sets out from El Salvador. Through intermediaries, it reaches Los Angeles, New York, Virginia, and every location where the relevant soldiers are stationed. Thousands of people carry out this order without question, without feeling the need to understand its purpose, because the justification is the organization itself, and the organization is not something to be questioned. You will never reach that level. These men are no longer human beings in an organizational sense. They are an institution. They are a religion. You are a soldier in their army, and the army will continue to exist long after you and them are gone. Level 9, the end. You're 35 years old and have been an active member of MS-13 for 21 years straight. This means you've spent more than half your life in this gang. In other words, you no longer know or can't imagine what kind of person you'd be without the gang. A person you can't find within yourself or clearly envision. You've been shot 4 times. You recovered from 3 of them. The 4th time, something remained in your shoulder. The doctors said removing it would carry its own risk, so it stayed. And on cold mornings, you feel it. You killed 3 people. This is an entry in a certain kind of ledger, a number that lives within it. You've learned not to examine it directly because examining it directly carries a price you can't afford to pay over and over again. You've been to prison twice. Over 20 years you earned hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that money is gone. Spent on things that no longer exist. Lost through channels you can't retrieve. consumed by the operating costs of life itself. One Tuesday evening, you're sitting in the car in front of your mother's house, watching the light in the kitchen window. She's getting old now. She cries when she sees you. She tells you it's not too late for anything yet. She's been telling you this for 10 years, and you love her enough to let her keep saying it. At the same time, you love her too much to tell her that you know it's already too late. In MS-13, there's no such thing as retirement, leaving, or quitting. You entered in blood, you leave in blood isn't just an empty slogan. It's a statement that defines how the rules of membership work. You start the car, you drive to that corner where everything began the first time you stopped there at 14. There's a kid standing at that corner right now. He is 14. He watches the street with the full concentration of someone who's learned that careful observation is his only ace in the hole. He is hungry just as you are. He is invisible just as you are. He has a phone. You look at him through the windshield, and the distance between you is 21 years, and yet there is no distance at all. He doesn't need you for the cycle to continue. All he needs are the conditions that produce 14-year-old children who are invisible everywhere except at a corner where men in blue and white uniforms roam as if the world belonged to them. You shift the car into gear. You leave the corner behind. The child watches you leave.